Hello, beautiful people. I turned 87 this year. 87. I've survived wars on the news, recessions in my kitchen, funerals in churches that smelled like dust and lilies, and now, cancer. Stage 4. The kind doctors soften with careful language and long pauses. The kind that doesn't need explanation anymore. I'm not angry about it. That surprises people. They think age brings fear. It doesn't. It brings clarity. What frightens me isn't dying. It's how many people are sleepwalking through their lives like they have an unlimited supply of tomorrows. You do not. And I don't say that dramatically. I say it mathematically. Time runs out. I'm sitting here, bones thinner than they used to be, hands spotted like old photographs, looking back at a life that went by faster than I ever imagined, faster than anyone warned me, and that's why I'm talking to you, because someone should have grabbed me hard when I was 25, or even 60, looked me in the eye and said what I'm about to say now. So listen carefully. I don't have the strength to waste words anymore. Here's the first truth, and it's the one people choke on. Nobody is coming to save you. I know, that sounds cruel, especially coming from an old woman with cancer. But cruelty would be letting you keep believing the lie. We are raised on rescue fantasies. We think love will fix us. We think a job will complete us. We think a government, a partner, a miracle, a lucky break will arrive just in time. It won't. If your life feels heavy, it's because you're carrying it. If your dreams are rotting in the corner, it's because you left them there. If you're waiting for permission to start living, stop. No one is issuing it. I spent decades believing someone would notice how hard I was trying, that if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, stayed agreeable enough, life would reward me. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't reward effort, it responds to ownership, and ownership is uncomfortable. Ownership means admitting that the mess is yours, that the delay is yours, that the fear is yours. I know the objections already. I made them myself, but I didn't choose my parents, but the economy, but my health. Listen to me. You can't control everything. I couldn't either. I didn't choose cancer. I didn't choose betrayal. I didn't choose loss. But there is one thing, one that remains yours until your last breath, your response. Life is brutal to people who refuse responsibility and surprisingly generous to those who take it. I didn't learn that until far too late. Which brings me to the lie that destroys more lives than disease ever could. I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a fantasy. Tomorrow is where ambition goes to die politely. You tell yourself you'll make the call tomorrow. You'll forgive tomorrow. You'll change tomorrow. You'll live tomorrow. And then tomorrow quietly becomes never. Every time you break a promise to yourself, something weakens inside you. You don't notice it at first. It's subtle, like erosion. But years later, you wake up wondering why you don't trust yourself anymore. Discipline isn't punishment. It's self-respect. It's doing the thing when no one is watching and you don't feel inspired, and it would be easier not to. You don't need motivation. Motivation is a visitor. You need standards. I wish I had understood that earlier, before my body became fragile, before energy became precious, before time turned expensive, because let me tell you something about the body you're living in. You think it's permanent. It's not. I see young people treating their bodies like disposable tools. No sleep, garbage food, stress worn like a badge of honor. I did that too. Now my bones ache when the weather changes. My strength leaves before noon. And I would give anything to feel ordinary again. Health isn't everything until it's gone. Then it's all you think about. I don't say this to scare you. I say it because no one scared me when they should have. Take care of your body. It's the only home you're guaranteed. And as I sit here, thin, tired, still alive, I realize something painful. I wasn't robbed of time. I spent it poorly. That's the part that hurts, not the illness, not the ending, the waste. So before I run out of breath today, I want you to understand this. Your life is not waiting to begin. It is already happening. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize you were there the whole time. Just absent. Don't make my mistake. In the next part, I'll tell you about the cost of chasing the wrong things and the people I lost while I was busy earning things that didn't love me back. If you're still listening, stay. It only gets more honest from here. By the time you reach my age, people stop pretending. That's one of the quiet gifts of being 87. No one flatters you. No one performs. They either show up or they disappear. And most disappear. I didn't always live alone, you know. I had a husband once. Strong hands, loud laugh. Promises that sounded permanent when we were young. He died before he could grow old enough to disappoint me. Sometimes I think that was mercy. We had children. I won't say their names. Not because I don't love them, but because this story isn't about blame. It's about truth. When they were small, they needed me. When they grew, they wanted me. When they became adults, they tolerated me. And when I became sick, they left. Not all at once. That would have been easier. They left slowly, politely, with excuses. At first it was missed calls, then shorter visits, then next week, then silence, dressed up as busyness. I don't say this bitterly. I say it clearly. When I was useful, I was included. When I became inconvenient, I became optional. You see, society lies to women like me. It tells us that if we give enough, our youth, our bodies, our patience, our dreams, our families will take care of us in the end. That love is a contract. It isn't. Love is a choice people make every day, or they don't. And when the hospital visits grew longer, and the prognosis grew heavier, the choices became obvious. One child lived 2 states away. Another had too much going on. A third stopped answering entirely. They sent flowers once. They sent money twice. They sent themselves never. I remember lying in a hospital bed one night, the room humming with machines, realizing something that shattered me and freed me at the same time. I was alone, truly alone, and yet still breathing, still thinking, still responsible for the life I had left. That's when lesson number whatever this is finally landed. Family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shares your burden. I stopped waiting after that, stopped checking my phone, stopped hoping illness would make me lovable again. And something strange happened when I let go of expectation. I became calm, not numb, clear. I began to look at my life the way you look at a house you're preparing to leave. You walk through every room. You notice what mattered. You notice what didn't. And then you decide what happens to it when you're gone. I had a house, a real one. Walls, memories, property everyone assumed would pass down naturally. Funny thing about assumptions, they reveal entitlement. I overheard a conversation once. 2 of my children, not knowing I could hear them, discussing renovations, what they'd do eventually, what they'd sell, what wasn't worth keeping. They spoke like I was already gone. I didn't interrupt. I didn't cry. I listened, and I understood. They weren't evil. They weren't cruel. They were simply honest. And honesty, even when it hurts, is a gift. So I made a decision, quietly. I met with a lawyer on a Tuesday afternoon, brought my paperwork, sat carefully, because the chair was uncomfortable, and my joints don't forgive mistakes anymore. He asked me if I was sure. I told him I had never been more sure of anything. I donated everything, the house, the land, the savings people thought were waiting for them, all of it, to a home for elderly people who had no one. Men and women who had worked their entire lives and were now eating dinner alone in rooms smaller than their regrets. People whose children lived nearby and never visited. I visited them. I listened to their stories. I watched their faces change when someone remembered their name. That's where my life went, not to inheritance, to impact. Some would call it revenge. It wasn't. Revenge is loud. This was peaceful. It was the first decision I made that wasn't shaped by fear, guilt, or obligation. And when the news reached my family, oh, it reached them. Suddenly phones rang, voices cracked with concern. Why didn't you tell us? Was this influenced? You're not thinking clearly. Funny how clarity is questioned only when it costs someone else something. I told them the truth. I was thinking clearer than I ever had. I wasn't punishing them. I was rewarding presence. And they hadn't been present. After that, the calls stopped again. This time for good. And here's the part that might surprise you. I wasn't devastated. I was relieved. Because grief hurts less than false hope. I stopped performing motherhood. Stopped auditioning for love. Stopped shrinking my needs to fit other people's schedules. And in that quiet, something unexpected grew. Dignity. If you're listening to me and thinking, this sounds cold, it isn't. It's honest. I still love my children. But love doesn't mean surrendering your worth. Love doesn't mean leaving yourself behind. And if someone only shows up when there's something to gain, they aren't showing up for you. They're showing up for what's left of you. I don't have much time now, but what I have is mine. In the next part, I'll tell you what illness teaches you about money, meaning, and the lie that success will make you happy if you sacrifice everything else first. Stay with me. This is where most people get it wrong. There's something illness does to you that no book, no sermon, no success ever can. It strips the noise away. When your body starts failing, you don't think about applause anymore. You don't replay your proudest moments, you don't count achievements, you count breaths. And in those quiet hours, long nights when sleep won't come and pain hums softly in the background, you start sorting your life into two piles, what mattered and what never did. Let me tell you something unpopular. Money matters. Anyone who tells you otherwise has either never been poor or is lying to sound noble. I worried about money my entire life, not because I loved it, but because I feared what life looked like without it. I chased security like it was salvation. I told myself I was being responsible, and for a while I was, but somewhere along the way, responsibility turned into obsession. I worked longer hours. I delayed rest. I postponed joy. I told myself I'd live later. Later is a dangerous word, because later assumes a guarantee. I remember nights coming home exhausted, collapsing into bed, telling myself the same thing you might be telling yourself right now, this will be worth it someday. And you know what? It was worth something, but not what I thought. The money came, the house came, the comfort came, and slowly, quietly, so did the distance. Distance from my body, distance from my relationships, distance from myself. I missed dinners, I missed conversations, I missed moments that never repeated. And I told myself I was doing it for my family. That lie lasted a long time, until the day I realized they didn't want the things I bought. They wanted me. And by the time I understood that, they had built lives without my presence. That's the part no one warns you about. Success will take whatever you don't protect, and it doesn't give refunds. I see young women now burning themselves out, calling it ambition. I see men trading their health for titles that will forget their names within a year of retirement. I don't judge them. I was them, but listen to me carefully. The best investment is not real estate, not stocks, not status. It's you, your health, your mind, your relationships. Because when illness comes, and it will, in some form, you don't negotiate with it using money. Cancer doesn't care about your resume. It doesn't care what you earned. It only asks one question. Did you live or did you postpone? When I was first diagnosed, people said the usual things. Stay positive, be strong, fight. I smiled politely, but here's the truth no one likes. Illness isn't a battle, it's a mirror. It shows you exactly what you valued and what you neglected. I had money, I had property, I had a life that looked successful on paper, but sitting alone in that hospital room, I realized how thin paper is. No one was there to hold my hand. No one to argue with the nurses, no one to ask how I was really doing. That's when the full weight of my choices settled in. Not with drama, with silence. And in that silence, I asked myself a question that changed everything. If this is the end, what was the point? The answer wasn't legacy. It wasn't inheritance. It wasn't being remembered. It was simpler than that. The point was presence. Moments where I was fully there. Moments I didn't rush. Moments I didn't trade for something imaginary in the future. And I realized how many of those moments I had skipped. So when people talk about leaving something behind, they usually mean money. I wanted to leave something else, relief. I wanted to ease the ending, not complicate it. That's why giving my property away didn't feel like loss, it felt like alignment. The people who received it, those elderly men and women with shaking hands and tired eyes, they understood gratitude in a way entitlement never will. They cried, they wrote letters, they sat with me, they asked about my life. They didn't see me as a resource, they saw me as a person. And for the first time in a long time, I felt useful in the right way, not exploited, not expected, chosen. If you're young and listening to me, here's what I want you to understand before life forces the lesson on you. Money amplifies who you already are. If you neglect people, it will widen the distance. If you neglect yourself, it will make the emptiness more comfortable, but no less empty. And if you think you'll fix everything once you make it, you're lying to yourself. You don't become someone new at the finish line. You arrive as who you practiced being. And if you practiced absence, that's what will be waiting for you. I don't regret earning money. I regret believing it would protect me from regret. It didn't. Only honesty did. In the next part, I want to talk to you about time, real time, not productivity, not schedules, but the terrifying speed at which life disappears while you're busy preparing for it. Because that lesson, that one almost came too late for me. Stay. You need to hear this before you waste something you can't get back. People talk about time like it's gentle, like it slowly carries you forward, gives warnings, taps you on the shoulder before it takes something away. That is not how time works. Time is not cruel, but it is not kind either. Time is honest. It tells the truth eventually, whether you're ready or not. When you're young, time feels wide, stretchy, forgiving. You waste it like loose change because there's always more in your pocket. You tell yourself you'll call later, visit later, rest later, love better later, and time lets you believe that, for a while. Then one day you wake up and realize decades disappeared while you were planning to start living. I didn't feel old at 40. I didn't feel old at 60. I felt old when doctors stopped saying when you recover and started saying while you still can. That's when time became loud. Every hour started speaking. Every delay started costing something real. I began measuring days differently, not by productivity but by honesty. Did I say what needed to be said today? Did I forgive what was poisoning me? Did I live or did I endure? When cancer enters your life, it rearranges your priorities violently. The future shrinks, the past grows heavier, and the present, this exact moment, becomes sharp. You stop multitasking, you stop pretending, you stop wasting breath on people who have already shown you who they are. That's another truth people avoid. Not everyone deserves access to you just because they share blood. I waited a long time for my family to come around, longer than I should have. I told myself they were busy, confused, afraid. I made excuses that were kinder than the truth, but time again told the truth. They didn't come. Not when I was sick, not when I was alone, not when I stopped giving. And that absence, it taught me something forgiveness alone never could. Closure does not require reconciliation. You can make peace without reopening doors. I forgave them quietly, not because they apologized, but because carrying resentment felt heavier than carrying illness. Forgiveness isn't saying what they did was okay. It's saying I'm done letting it cost me more. Time taught me that too. Some people think forgiveness is a gift you give others. It isn't. It's the weight you finally set down. And let me be clear, forgiving did not mean inviting them back into my life. Boundaries are not bitterness. They are wisdom earned the hard way. I spent years believing love meant endurance, that loyalty meant tolerance, that family meant obligation. Time proved otherwise. Love is presence, loyalty is consistency, and family, real family, shows up without calculating what they'll get in return. When I stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming, something unexpected happened. Peace arrived. Quietly. No fireworks, no dramatic reunion, just relief. Relief from hoping, relief from disappointment, relief from explaining myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. And in that peace, I finally noticed something else. How precious ordinary moments are. The way sunlight moves across a wall, the sound of another person breathing beside you, the calm of a day where nothing hurts too badly. These are not small things. They are life itself. When time becomes scarce, you stop chasing meaning. You notice it's been there all along, in presence, in stillness, in honesty. I think the greatest tragedy isn't dying, it's living distracted, it's reaching the end and realizing you were never fully where your body was. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to wait for illness to slow you down. I don't want you to need loss to understand value. That's why I'm telling you this now. Time will not negotiate with you. It will not pause while you prepare. It will not wait for perfect conditions. It will simply move on, with or without your attention. So stop postponing the conversations. Stop delaying the changes you already know you need to make. Stop trading your days for approval from people who wouldn't sit beside you in a hospital room. Choose yourself before time forces you to. In the final part, I want to tell you what peace actually looks like at the end. Not fear, not regret, but something softer, something honest, something I never expected. Stay with me. The ending isn't what you think. Subscribe for more amazing content and life lessons.